Welcome to all. I see familiar faces and names. Thank you for joining. For those who don't know my name, who I am, my name is Aphrodite Gonou, as you can see, and I am a freelance contemporary art advisor and advisor to the Museum of Cycladic Art for the contemporary art program. It is so nice to have you, our friends and supporters, with us tonight, to be together for an event, even if it is virtual. These events are so important during these times that we cannot physically visit art exhibitions as before. And while the doors of our museum, and unfortunately so many museums around the world, have to remain closed, we need to keep the dialogue open between us. And lighten up a bit our lockdowns with art events. Tonight we are so excited and happy to virtually visit with you the fantastic nonprofit space of TAVROS, and specifically the great exhibition by Sagri, one of the most important Greek contemporary artists, respected and recognized all over the world. We are so happy to have the artist herself with us and Maria-Thalia Carras, the director of TAVROS, for a conversation. And you will see a lot of images and a small video that will give you, a small little film that will give you the sense of visiting the exhibition. I'm just going to say a few words on our speakers. So first, a few words on Sagri. Sagri was born and is currently based in Athens. She studied at the Musical Conservatory and the Athens School of Fine Arts. She then continued her studies with an MFA in Visual Arts at Columbia University, and she spent several formative years in New York working on her innovative approach to art and performance. In her practice, she uses a variety of media: sculpture, video, drawing, installation, and writing, while it is centered in performance. You might have had the chance, I hope you did, the chance to experience the work of Sagri at the museum, at our Museum of Cycladic Art, as part of the Deste Prize 18th anniversary exhibition in 2017. And at the same time, she was participating with the iconic work Dynamis at Documenta 14, which was in Kassel and Athens at the same time. So the same year, maybe some of you have experienced the work. Sagri has shown all over the world, from experimental spaces to some of the most prestigious spaces like MoMA, New York, Guggenheim, Bilbao, Porticus, Consale, Basel. She has participated, apart from Documenta that we mentioned, to Manifesta, Istanbul Biennial, Lyon Biennial, Whitney Biennial, as well as Thessaloniki Biennial and Athens Biennials. And in the summer of 2019, she was offered and accepted the tenure position in the School of Fine Arts in Athens in order to organize and run the first performance art studio. And I must say, we expect great things to come out of this, and we look forward to that. I'm just going to say a few words on TAVROS and Maria-Thalia. We first got to know Maria-Thalia with Locus Athens, a nomadic non-profit arts organization formed in 2004 with the aim of exploring the juncture between the public space and contemporary art. Locus commissioned artists to produce site-specific works. They curated exhibitions, talks, and screenings, and organized educational programs in various locations around the city, with not a permanent space. In 2019, Maria-Thalia Carras and Olga Hadzidakis, the two directors, decided on a radical shift in their approach, thinking of the term public less as architectural space and more as content and communities. And they created TAVROS with that in mind, a mid-sized, not-for-profit space in the eponymous area of Athens as a new home for their art projects, with a varied program of exhibitions, talks, and community projects, geared to responding to the social and political circumstances around us, giving voice to marginalized communities, and exploring notions of democracy, equality, and ecology. Hopefully, we will soon organize a real visit to TAVROS for our friends. For tonight, before I pass on to our guests, I will share a small video that we took of the exhibition.
this is where I wanted to basically bring you in the atmosphere of the practice and the sense of the practice, meaning that the sense of the practice doesn't come out of a reaction. It comes up from a sharing, participation to the different, let's say, layers of experiences, the movements of the people, the sensing of what takes place, what it is hidden, and it's not able to appear. And through performance, it shapes, it takes form, it has a figure, it's voiced out, it has a sound. So for the preparation, for example, of Dynamis, there were a series of workshops going on with more than 200 people that they were going through these preparatory workshops that lead it in a way to the performance. That also the performance, the 6 days performance was a workshop, was a practice. So this maybe it is good for also Maria-Thalia to answer a little bit the phrase of going out of representation. Going out of representation means that we go in practice, which means that we are able to train, we are able to co-educate, to cooperate together, and also the performance when it takes place and when it has a figure is able to acquire the, let's say, conditions, the capacity to carry on the practice. For example, with this piece that you see here, which is the Attempt Come, it was a piece of 24 hours. And there were many people coming to me after the performance, like days after, and saying to me, oh, but how you are able to sustain a performance like that? Because it's not really a beginning and an end action. It carries through the practice, through the routine. And I was able in a way to feel confident to start more committed right now, like right now, meaning from when I actually made sure with myself that I will be able to carry that out from 2017 that I started doing these big workshops for the preparation of Dynamis. But then it continued in 2018 as a desire, as something that it was kept in my body that I needed to do. And then, of course, meeting you, meeting Daria Khan, meeting Monica Sevcik, and giving me a bit more of a push of support and trust to actualize the sessions and the training and the treatments the way that I wanted them to be since many years, but I wasn't, confident enough to do it. That's why it was very important meeting you and actually meeting you, having the studio visit. I already knew you for many years, Maria-Thalia, and it was, for me, was very important to have you as a support in Athens.
So in a way, ESC is almost like a return to the practice.
Yes.
It is the practice.
It is the practice, yes. It is the practice that it was kept for myself as a self-recovery and as a way of practicing and working in the studio performance that I realized that it was actually benefiting people for their well-being, for their health. And this is when things started to kind of click in a different way for me. And this is also the way that I was more confident to go about this practice in, let's say, two different motives. On the one, the motive of carry on and developing the practice, my practice, but also carry on and being able to help and care for others without the per se contract of the calendar of exhibition making or the calendar of, or the pressure of establishing a final object, like art object, but continued to be inspired by the sessions themselves, and also having the confidence to give matter to those techniques. For example, with what you see here, the breathing scores were also presented in Documenta 14 in Athens and Kassel. You see one of the, let's say, manifestations, material manifestations of some of the techniques of my practice. The breathing scores is not metaphorical, they're actual breathing scores. There are scores of the breathing techniques that I am sharing, and I'm helping others basically to get more in tune with their breathing. Because
tell us a little bit more about breathing, which is central, and the diaphragm, which appears again and again, also in Dynamis. Here, these breaths, which are literally, as you say, literal breaths, but then also how you use breath as a technique in these one-on-one sessions.
The techniques are not a methods, and they are not exercises. Basically, also the scores that they are made with blown glass. It was very important that I'm doing the blown glass. I'm also learning how to control in a way the breath to be able to make the pieces, but also the importance of the entire, let's say, practice and the first chapter of the practice, because it is layered in 3 parts. The first part is breathing. The second is movement, because we cannot move if we are not able to breathe, of course. And we cannot speak, we cannot have voice if we are not able to move.
Basically, Georgia, I'll tell you how it functioned in all the 3 spaces, in Mimosa House and the Apple and in TAVROS. We made an open call for participants who the call basically asked for people who maybe had anxiety, fears, phobias, something in their body that they weren't particularly happy with, of which you'll discover that most people feel in some way unpleasant in themselves. So we received all these applications, we went through them, and Georgia then interviewed 10 of the applicants, and she selected, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 who would commit to meeting twice a week for an hour and a half in TAVROS. Actually, she started online during the first lockdown, and then they came to TAVROS, where she had built this stage of recovery, she calls it, which is that stage which we saw maybe in the video, in the first video, which is basically a soft shell. That's how she calls it, a place where people could sort of feel comfortable and start to allow their inhibitions to leave. And then she would work with them using breathing techniques. Correct me if I'm wrong, Georgia, but basically then with the participants, she would use the breathing techniques and the different techniques that she used to use before her own performances.
So the stage has on the top 4 large pillows, and it's attached on a base that it is wooden, very simple manufactured, very common materials, and it's covered with cotton fabric. It can hold the activities of one participant, and the activities are one-to-one. There are with the confidentiality, and there is also anonymity for the sessions, which was, I think, a very important parameter for 3 art institutions to hold an activity that it was actually not for viewing, that it was for happening, for being there, but without the, let's say, without the pleasure of the viewership. It was another process going on at the time of the session, and it was also a demand from my part to the institutions to give that time and space for this, let's say, radical intimacy, I call it, to take place. Meaning that this radical intimacy creates and forms another sense of viewership, another type of public, and also another type of tactility between the making of the work. Here is the stage on in TAVROS, and these are also the drawings that happen after the sessions.
How do the drawings and the reports that you write, the image making and the language come from these sessions?
It's quite interesting to talk about these cases using the terminology that we commonly know as contemporary diseases or contemporary pathologies. So I'm trying to somehow, with the practice, to introduce new wording to those pathologies. The way that we are treating each other, and I'm sharing the techniques, and there is slowly improvement. I see that improvement might also happen because the calling of those pathologies is not with this common wording that makes them a taboo or makes them demonic.
I feel like the language that you use sometimes is both rooted in bodily terminology, but also entails something cosmic, something sublime, and somewhere in between these two, I feel that the language that you use is born. Is that right?
I'm doing performance because I'm convinced that each one is unique. So when performance takes place, when movement takes place, it takes place with this unique capacity that it's acquired in the moment of the work. The body is shaped through the need to shape, to present, to make the work exist. Of course, everyone is performing. Everybody has a role to perform, but sometimes these roles that we perform, they become also our symptoms. They become so fixed and so over determined that we are not able to open up to capacities and capabilities other roles that we can do and other movements that we can reveal. So the techniques in a way are like recovering from those roles, those fixed roles, at the same time calling that might come, that might be not even realized, that the participant is allowed to behave, to be. Meaning, for example, that a lot of times we are inhaling from the mouth because we think that it is faster. But of course, we realize that inhaling from the mouth is not good quality of oxygen, and it's also half of the circuit of the circulation. So if that, even that, which sounds very simple, somehow changes and shifts, there is so much space and time given to the body to actually have its natural tempo. And I'm not saying that there is a one natural tempo of one body, but each one of the bodies, each one of us has a very unique tempo. Like the heartbeat, each one of our heartbeats are completely different tempo. So when we fixate ourselves to inhale with one way, we squeeze each other into one way of behaving, one way of being, one way of thinking, one way of doing.
I think we should start wrapping up, but I will ask just one last question for closure, which is that it feels like a radical call, but what I find interesting is that this radical thinking of how we can be, you're working on it as one-on-one. So like the body politic, or this call for action, is actually in a very small circle of two people. And I think that's a very interesting proposition. So, and I know that you're going to continue working in this way in Italy. So maybe you can close by saying about how this practice of one-on-one continuing and what that means.
During the session, they are exposing their condition. This doesn't happen immediately. So it is important, this exposing or this revealing, to happen on a soft surface. And of course, because we are not so much used of being in soft places, we always try to prove ourselves in difficulty rather than in easiness, in comfort. The stage is giving them the possibility to expose and to being treated on a soft surface, meaning that they can be. They can just be. Sometimes they don't need to do anything. They can just be there. They can rest. This is the practice. Already I know that knowing how it survived me and recovered me, and was able to give me a sense of observation, a sense of curiosity. It also gives a sense of curiosity and joy to those that they are, I'm sharing it with. And already I have worked with some like 30 people. So the one-to-one session, it is the actualization of the demand of giving time and space for that curiosity to build up, for that concentration and observation to take place. And it is a very well tactic of any session. And that's why I call it a session, and that's why I took the format of the session very literally from any session that it takes place. You need to be able to do that, but to do that in a place of art, in a place of an art institution, in the place of the studio. It is for me the something to explore even more, because there it happens something that that for me it brings all the surface of what EAC is. That the changing of the gaze, the changing of how the practice takes place is not focused on the gaze. It's focused on the tactility of the session itself, and it is a session that it is not represented and it is not reproduced. And that's also the reason that I'm able to, with such a comfort for the first time, to feel that I'm actually in a point in time to say that this is what I'm doing, that this is my practice.
So is the work that we see, let's say, in the space done in a completely different time, or is it part of the process?
Those larger pieces with the dots are the techniques. And then there are these larger pieces that I started doing here in Amsterdam, that I call them more like landscapes. They are more close to the body. And here you see Maria-Thalia, the diaphragm, like a bridge.
I was about to say,
like a green bridge between the lungs, separating the upper part of the body with the lower part. For my techniques, the diaphragm is basically called the horizon. It's one of the most important muscles that we have, that we are given, and for most of us is completely unused, and it is very, very sleepy. And the sleepy diaphragm means that the entire inside is squeezed in such way that not only we are not able to breathe correctly, but we are not confident correctly. Like the spine also feels, the spine feels
compressed.
Abandoned from the horizon. And the drawings are the imprint of the sessions, and there are the sensorial imprint of the session. Is not a representation.
Yeah, wow, we could listen to you. It's honestly, I mean, especially during this time where we all deal with this pandemic and our bodies and the threat of the breath, of our own breath, the other people's breath. For me, this was an incredible journey to go through all the work and really understand how you worked on it. And thank you. I mean, this has been really, really amazing. Unfortunately, we cannot see the current one. I mean, it looks absolutely amazing. And I wish I don't know, how long will it be at the Apple?
At the Apple, it will be until January, 17th of January, 2021. There are also two other works included in the Ulai retrospective at the Stedelijk. One large piece and one breathing, and the breathing performance that I did on the 24th of October, the wind phase.
And that's until when at the Stedelijk?
The Stedelijk, my presentation is until 17th of January.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so generous of you. Maria-Thalia, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much also for inviting me. We rushed into the presentation and I didn't say thank you in the beginning.
Obviously, thank you so much. Exhibition and the experience and for participating tonight. Thank you all for joining, and we hope to see you soon all in real life and in more virtual events. Thank you.
Thank you, Aphrodite.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.